And so this why this travel YouTuber is surprisingly controversial.
Bald and Bankrupt is one of the website's most fascinating YouTubers. He gains over 1
And
million
he's actually pretty good at
views per video by
blogging.
traveling to extremely isolated areas. However, with accusations of credit card fraud, unexplained court cases, and most notably controversial behavior toward women, to say he has a hidden dark side
Is it hardcore?
would be putting it pretty lightly. Take for example his very first video titled I Love India's Police Women, in which he spends roughly 3.5 minutes firstly swooning over female cops.
I saw what at first appeared to be a mirage, but they were no mirage. They were Indian traffic cops, and they were beautiful.
Before filming some pretty questionable shots with some more creepy commentary.
I stayed in the city an extra day for no other reason than to gaze upon them. In fact, I'd often stop to ask needless directions just to see their smiles up close, maybe feel a slight hint of their breath on my skin.
Many of the video's comments echoed, "Ha, I knew it, I'm not the creepiest man alive." However,
I mean, I don't think it's that bad, but
despite
okay.
being a pretty creepy upload, there was no denying the footage was interesting, especially to a Western audience. By showcasing similarly interesting culture shock footage like a $1 Indian gym, Mumbai's largest slum, and a stolen item market, Bald and Bankrupt exploded in popularity,
These are
all
bankers.
while maintaining his vocal love for the opposite sex.
There's two things that I like in life, markets and women. And here I've come to the world's only all-women's market.
In other videos, Bald's comments became much more expressive.
Oh, sexy little things in their hijabs. I'm a little bit scared to flirt. I do like a woman in a
Okay, little things is kind of
hijab.
Yeah.
Is the hijab one when you just see the eyes? It's very sexy when you just see the eyes. Leaves a lot to the imagination. You start imagining what's under the rest of it.
Although since they were nested in highly interesting videos, nobody seemed to give them a second thought.
I found someone who's looking for girls like me. Where are the girls at? Let's find some chicks.
Excluding what seemed to be one single
and
person
maybe he's just charming, I don't
who
know.
wrote, "Maybe one thing this channel is missing is a little bit more respect for women. They're either pretty so they're like objects and creepily
Alright.
talked about,
What is this unhinged comment?
or they're big fat women with cankles. I love this channel, but yikes, it's weird." To which Bald actually replied, "I have news for you. Men objectify every woman we see or meet. We place them in two categories, would fuck them or not. It's reality. If you think that is creepy, go ahead, but it doesn't change the facts
It's like 2 years
of how
ago.
men think," which had been commented on a video where Bald had stated this.
Argentinian team has some hotties on it. Next stop, Argentina on the world tour, I think. But I have no actual interest in watching polo. Although watching some Argentinian girls bouncing around on a horse might be fun, I don't know. Any Argentinian people staying here? Any blonde Argentinian girls, you notice?
His outlook only became more solidified after
Okay, this from a different video by the way.
moving to Russia in
Context.
2019.
Look at the boobies they've given her. Oh my god, they're huge. They're bigger than Tanya's.
Although we'll have to come back to the topic of women later, as in the meantime he'd find himself in a totally unrelated controversy. During a video titled The Last House in the Chernobyl Village, Bald met a man named Kolya who lived in a derelict
It's like an actual Netflix series.
house with no power or running water. The two struck up quite an unusual friendship,
Wow.
filming 6 different videos together during which Bald had an idea. He chose to launch a line of merch with Kolya's face on the front, the profits of which would be given to Kolya so he could increase his standard of living, and this seemed to
But did he?
work perfectly.
Recently, I had a t-shirt campaign, and I said I was going to raise some money for someone. And well, you guys bought the
I mean,
t-shirt,
he gave it on the video, but
and I've got the
I'm off screen, I don't know.
money. And so I'm going to come here and hand it over to somebody.
Bald gave Kolya a handful of banknotes, later clarifying the amount to be,
I left him with the equivalent of what was about a year's pension money.
although since the amount of money was somewhat visible on camera, people were able to pinpoint exactly how much money was given. In my eyes, Bald has only given him 4 banknotes, which would be roughly 400 rubles or $200, which meant he only gave away the equivalent of 20 t-shirt sales. Not exactly a year's pension, is it, Bald? Although another post made
Okay, the
things even worse. Bald failed to give Kolya any of the estimated 10,000 money from the t-shirt campaign, apart from the $300 he gave on
wait, how did he know it didn't keep off camera?
camera. It turned out that Kolya wasn't even aware that he'd been filmed, and these kind people showed him the videos Bald made about him. In Bald's defense, giving $10,000 to someone with a severe
But it's still money though, come
alcohol
on.
addiction might have also been a terrible idea.
Don't spend too much of it on alcohol, but Collier's his own man. I just hope We haven't killed Collier.
But while Bald and Bankrupt might have done the right thing here, there were more Russian controversies just around the corner. During an upload titled "Would You Ride the Night Train to Chechnya?", Bald was back to talking about women by stating,
Hopefully at some point in the night at some stop a Chechen chick turns up and shares my compartment with me. And I can put on some romantic lighting. Salam alaikum, sister.
However, as a result of calling Chechen women chicks, Bald was forced by the Russian government to apologize for the insult.
Это некрасивый вид. Я прошу прощения, люди в Чечне.
But with comments such as "lol,"
I shouldn't have apologized.
forcing someone to make an apology for a random flippant joke. Chechnya sounds like a ridiculous place. A nice healthy reminder never to go there. Most people understandably thought that Chechnya was being ridiculous. However, Bald's next controversy was 100% his fault. British YouTube star behind Bald and Bankrupt detained at Russian Space Center. British YouTube star with more than 3 million followers is arrested near Russian spaceport in Kazakhstan. British YouTuber ordered to pay fine after
Along with Premier.
Russians detain him at spaceport. Bald had actually filmed the day all of this went down and would upload it under the title "This video caused an international incident." He and a female accomplice had snuck into an old Soviet spaceship hangar without realizing the military had been notified, who were on their way to arrest them. Bald was released with a measly £60 fine. However, the arrest might have
Only.
played into something more serious, which happened only 32 days later. He'd uploaded a new video titled "The Journey is Over," in which Bald explained he'd been unexpectedly arrested on the street and was forced to leave the country.
I'm being kicked out of Russia with immediate effect. Banned from coming back.
In the months prior, Bald had called Putin crazy and shown his support for Ukraine.
Yeah, no.
The reason for
Don't do that.
which was explained during a released interrogation video. He'd state, "When you have a face on YouTube, if you want to earn money, you need to say what people want to hear. If you don't, it will be a problem for you." Every YouTuber received an email from YouTube where they said you may only talk about the situation in Ukraine from the side of the Ukrainians. You can't tell it from the Russian point of view. If you do this, then you won't be able to earn money from advertising on your channel, with the audience again
Is it
taking
really true?
Bald and
Is it they actually demonetize Asian?
Bankrupt side. Bald was really smart here. He clearly just speaks what is needed to get out of that situation. That's what I would do. The only aim is to get out. Anyone who thinks that Mr. Bald is a hypocrite has never experienced an encounter with Russian authorities. He's an absolute genius and a certified legend. Besides, being thrown out of Russia meant he could go to some new countries, where in Syria he'd post a story to his Instagram, reigniting an old point of criticism: discussions about women. Me before visiting Syria thinking, must be hardcore there, probably going to be a week of no alcohol and must not look at girls on the street or else I'll be beaten up by angry brothers. Reality of Syria: guys inviting you to bars to drink and constantly telling you to go to Homs to see how hot the women are there. My kind of country. Just a few months prior, Bald had posted another story reading, "Throwback to 6 years ago when myself and HB were just a couple of red-pilled young chads traveling across Siberia having adventures.
Alright, dude.
We'd love to repeat those escapades and film them, but of course YouTube only allows for watered down versions of trips. Hashtag censorship sucks." Bald seemed to imply that during his trips, he'd seen more than just the local tourist spots, and as a result a subreddit was created titled "Bald and Balder Dossier," deeply investigating
Editors.
Bald and Bankrupt's history. They'd find that Bald had used the online alias Vorkuta, which was the name of a small Russian town that Bald had spoken fondly of in an article that he'd written. A person who'd met Bald in real life also confirmed that Vorkuta was his alias, and you therefore might be wondering, why is this important? Well, Vorkuta, who later changed his name to The Fantasist, was a prominent member of the pickup artist and sex tourist website Rushv Forum, where prior to beginning YouTube he'd talk about wanting to head
What?
to places completely off the track, where he could find provincial seedy nightclubs with puke-stained carpets and suburban housing estates full of disenchanted and hopeless girls, in which
This is to be trusted.
his white god status is maximized even more. Bald also talked about faking his level of wealth in photos such as these, which helped him to sleep with an 18-year-old last summer when he was 38, with this video titled "Dirty
This is a doesn't right.
Secrets and Double Life of Bald and Bankrupt Exposed," giving a pretty good summary of Bald's 1600 forum posts. It's therefore no surprise he joked about being a pickup artist, and when someone commented on one of his videos, "big sex pest vibes," he can't can't help but be a creep around any woman and it's been the same for years. Bald responded by stating, a sex pest for years? That's absolutely unfair and untrue. I've actually been a sex pest for decades. Bald was seemingly
double downs.
exercising his strategy for dealing with criticism.
How do you deal with it when people are like saying terrible things about you? I suppose every YouTuber has their own techniques to cope with that mentally. But for me, like, embrace it, love it, and amplify it. When someone says like, you're the biggest wanker in the world, you say, that's right, mate, bigger than you'll ever know. Even worse than you think I am. What are you gonna do about it?
And while this works pretty well 95% of the time, doubling down on a sex pest comment was something he probably should have just ignored.
Yeah, not that one.
Didn't help that he was also accused of SA in the year 2000, and while an article on the incident confirmed that Bald was acquitted, the judge stated their behavior towards the woman had been appalling. Combine this with a forum post where Bald bragged about his Rohypnol game, and another joke on his Instagram reading, if you see this man, do not approach but call the police immediately. He is wanted in connection to a crime where Rohypnol was used. It's not hard to see why some might think that Bald's a bit of a creep.
What's Rohypnol?
On top of this, Bald had suspiciously changed his name from Benjamin Rich Swift to a more simple Benjamin Rich, the reason for this being explained by Bald and Bankrupt himself. He'd state, I owed £30,000 on credit cards and bank loans here in the UK about 5 years back. There was no way I could pay it back. I decided to change my surname to my mother's maiden name and change address, and I never heard from them again, for which the audience actually admired him. I respect him more now. Scamming a bank is morally right. What a beast. Keep on traveling, bro, which is exactly what he'd do until he'd post an Instagram story in Germany. Only been in Europe 2 minutes and already been ripped off. £15 for 3 mouthfuls of pasta. Germany, just like the UK, must be a failed state. They need their old leader and some Hugo Boss suits back in power to sort things out. After Bald posted that to his Instagram story, he'd receive a text from his mum reading, glad you arrived back safely but not sure about your comment with the food, prompting Bald to post another story reading, my mum always worried when I'm trolling with based comments. Mum, get off Instagram, you're too old. In fact, if I find you on here again, I'll start posting my collection of George Floyd memes, which on the internet of course ruffled some feathers, although for a slightly funnier reason. It was based from a 48-year-old man is actually crazy. After Bald also
What is this
showed
username?
extensive support for Andrew Tate, he was slammed by NFKRZ despite the two collaborating together in the past.
Red pill, circle jerkers, digital nomad, expat, fucking bold and bankrupt looking ass.
And as a result, it seems their friendship completely disintegrated.
I randomly accidentally found out that Bald actually blocked me on Instagram completely.
On top of blocking NFKRZ, Bald wiped everything else from his Instagram, leaving one single image with a pretty heartfelt caption. As I wind down my YouTube career, I'm looking forward to slowly going back to being Ben from Brighton once again, instead of Bald from YouTube. If I'm going to be congruent with that desire, then I should remove as much of Bald and Bankrupt from the web as I can. Interestingly, that had been posted on the 7th of July 2022, which was
Why is it
the
doing that
same
now?
day as when his forum posts were first exposed on YouTube, almost certainly explaining his sudden desire to quit. Impressively, however, Bald and Bankrupt soldiered on and continued uploading high quality content, possibly realizing he could only look to the future as he had no way of changing his past. However, in a recent interview with Joe Fish, Bald and
Yeah,
Bankrupt
that doesn't make sense at all.
stated that he'd pretty much completed his travels.
I've been very, very fortunate, and I can say that I've pretty much ticked off everywhere I truly want to go. I'm more interested now in learning more about my home country than I am about seeing those other places.
And while Bald has definitely had somewhat of a bumpy history, him quitting YouTube would be a depressing end to a channel loved by many with so much future potential.
Okay, definitely ending there.